They say a mother's love is unconditional, but what about a daughter's? I learned the answer when Madison stood in her $12,000 wedding dress and told me I'd be sitting at table 19, the one by the kitchen, reserved for overflow guests. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start from the beginning, when I still believed love meant something different than what it's become. My name is Eleanor Thompson, Ellie to anyone who matters, though that list has grown shorter over the years. At 68, I've learned that life has a way of teaching lessons you never signed up for. The most painful one came wrapped in ivory linen paper with gold embossing, delivered by a mailman who had no idea he was handing me the beginning of the end. The wedding invitation arrived on a Tuesday, not hand-delivered by my daughter Madison, who lived just 20 minutes away in the same city of Asheville. Not accompanied by an excited phone call or a mother-daughter lunch to discuss details, just mailed, like I was a distant cousin or her father's old college roommate. Mr. and Mrs. Tyler Bennett III request the honor of your presence at the marriage of Madison Elizabeth Thompson to their son, Tyler James Bennett IV. I stared at those words until they blurred. In 35 years of being Madison's mother, I'd never been erased so elegantly.
As I write this, I keep thinking about all the mothers, fathers, grandparents who might recognize this feeling. That moment when you realize you've become a footnote in your own child's story. If that's you, I want you to know your feelings are valid. Share them below if you feel comfortable, and maybe subscribe my channel to hear the rest. Because what happened next taught me that sometimes being pushed aside is exactly where we need to be to find our power.
The Asheville spring air was crisp that morning, carrying the scent of mountain laurel through my kitchen window. I'd lived in this modest 3-bedroom ranch since Robert and I bought it in 1987, back when young couples could still afford homes on a nurse's and engineer's salaries. The same kitchen where I'd made 10,000 school lunches, hosted Madison's study groups, and sat up countless nights when she was sick. Now, that kitchen felt too quiet, too full of ghosts. Madison had called 3 weeks before the invitation arrived. Brief, efficient, like she was checking off a to-do list. Mom, Tyler and I set a date, June 15th at the Grand Bohemian. The Grand Bohemian. I know it well. Not from visiting, but from passing by and seeing the valets parking cars that cost more than I'd made in my best year as a cardiac care nurse. That's wonderful, sweetheart, I'd said, already calculating. June was 3 months away. Maybe I could pick up some per diem shifts at the hospital, build up a proper gift fund. Tyler's parents are handling most of the arrangements, she'd continued, her voice taking on that careful tone I'd learned to recognize, the one that meant she was managing me. Diana has such incredible connections, you wouldn't believe the vendors she knows.
Diana Bennett. I'd met her exactly twice, and both times she looked at me like I was wearing a Halloween costume to a black tie gala, which, in her world, I suppose I was. Is there anything I can help with? I'd asked, hating how small my voice sounded. Oh, Mom, that sigh. When had my daughter learned to sigh at me like that? Just be there. That's all I need. Be there. Like a potted plant. Like furniture. The memory stung as I stood in my bedroom 3 months later, staring at the pink silk dress I'd saved for 2 years to buy. Rose gold, really. The saleswoman had insisted on the proper name. It had seemed perfect in the store. Elegant, but not trying too hard. Appropriate for the mother of the bride. Oh. Madison's face fell when I showed it to her. It's pretty. But Mom, the color scheme is blush and bashful. That's practically neon in comparison. She was sitting in my living room, wedding binder in her lap, looking like a stranger. When had she become this person? Her highlighted hair was perfectly blown out. Her engagement ring, 3 carats, Tyler had made sure everyone knew, caught the light with every gesture. The Duke University sweatshirt I'd bought her freshman year had been replaced by designer blazers and silk blouses that whispered money with every movement. I could find something else, I offered. Diana already suggested a few options. Madison flipped through her binder, producing a printout. She found these at Nordstrom. Very tasteful. Very appropriate.
Appropriate. There was that word again. Code for not embarrassing. I looked at the suggestions. Beige, gray, navy so dark it might as well be black. Mother of the bride clothes designed to help you disappear. I'll think about it, I said. But I wore the pink dress anyway. Some small, stubborn part of me refused to be erased completely. The rehearsal dinner was held at Tyler's parents' country club, the kind of place where the parking lot looked like a luxury car dealership and the air smelled like old money and new prejudices. I valeted my 2010 Honda Civic between a Porsche and a Mercedes, trying not to notice the valet's barely concealed smirk. Inside, I found myself drowning in a sea of people who all seemed to know each other, speak the same language of stock portfolios and vacation homes. Madison glided through them like she'd been born to it, Tyler's hand possessively on her lower back. Eleanor, Diana Bennett's voice cut through the cocktail chatter. She approached with the kind of smile that never reached her eyes, wearing a dress that probably cost more than my mortgage payment. How lovely to see you, though I thought Madison mentioned you decided on the navy dress. The pink felt more festive, I said, lifting my chin. Her eyes swept over me like a scanner at airport security. Well, you must meet Judge Harrison. He'll be officiating tomorrow. She was already turning away. Tyler's godfather, Harvard Law, class of 78.
And then she was gone, leaving me standing alone with my glass of house wine while everyone around me discussed their children's accomplishments. Harvard, Yale, Stanford. I wanted to tell them about Madison's full scholarship to Duke, how she'd earned it through late nights and determination, not connections. But who was I? Just the woman who'd worked double shifts to buy her SAT prep books? Estate planning is so crucial at our age, don't you think? I turned to find Tyler beside me, his smile as practiced as his father's golf swing. I'm sorry? Just thinking ahead, he said, his voice casual but his eyes sharp. Madison worries about you, living alone in that house, all those stairs, and managing finances can be so overwhelming as we get older. We, as if he at 38 and I at 68 were somehow peers in the aging process. I manage just fine, I said. Of course, he patted my shoulder like I was a skittish horse. But it never hurts to have family looking out for you. That's what family does, right? Something in his tone made my skin crawl. But before I could respond, he was pulled away by another godfather or uncle or connection that mattered more than a future mother-in-law who drove a Honda and wore the wrong colored dress. I left early that night, claiming a headache. Madison barely noticed, lost in the glow of being a Bennett-to-be. As I drove home through the mountain roads, I thought about Robert, about what he would have made of all this. He'd been gone 4 years now, taken by pancreatic cancer that moved faster than our ability to process it. Our girl's gonna soar, he'd said near the end, his engineer's mind still sharp, even as his body failed. Just make sure she remembers where her wings came from. But sitting at table 19 the next day, watching my daughter marry into a family that had already erased me, I realized something that would have broken Robert's heart. Madison had not only forgotten where her wings came from, she was pretending they'd sprouted all on their own. 3 weeks before the wedding, I found my late husband Robert's safety deposit box key taped inside his favorite Steinbeck novel. What I discovered changed everything, but not in the way you'd expect. It was a Thursday morning, and I was drowning.
Not literally, though some days that might have been easier, but in wedding expenses that seemed to multiply like aggressive cancer cells. Madison had called the night before, her voice dripping with that particular brand of sweetness she'd perfected when she needed something. "Mom, tiny problem. The florist says the peonies I wanted are out of season. Diana found a supplier who can fly them in from Ecuador, but it's an extra $3,000. I know it's a lot, but Tyler's cousins had peonies, and Diana thinks. How many thousands of dollars had those two words cost me already? I'll see what I can do, I'd said, because what else could I say? That I'd already drained half my savings for a wedding where I'd be seated by the kitchen? That my retirement fund was hemorrhaging money for flowers that would die in a day? After hanging up, I'd sat in Robert's old recliner, the leather worn smooth where his hands used to rest. God, I missed him. Missed having someone who'd roll their eyes with me at the absurdity of $3,000 flowers. Someone who'd remind me that we'd gotten married in his parents' backyard with carnations from the grocery store and been perfectly happy. That's when I noticed it. East of Eden, slightly askew on the bookshelf. Robert had been obsessively neat, every book aligned like soldiers at attention. It was one of those tiny details of grief, how the wrongness of things being out of place could still ambush you 4 years later. I went to straighten it and felt the resistance. Something was preventing it from sliding back into place. My hands trembled as I pulled out the book and found the key taped inside the back cover, a small brass key with a number, 2847, and the Wells Fargo logo. There was a yellow sticky note in Robert's precise handwriting. For Ellie, when you need it most. Remember, patience reveals truth. All my love, R. My heart hammered against my ribs. Robert and I never had secrets. We'd shared everything, checking accounts, credit cards, the mundane financial transparency of 38 years of marriage. So what was this? The next morning, I sat in a small room at Wells Fargo, staring at documents that made no sense. The manager, a kind woman named Patricia, walked me through each page with the patience of someone used to dealing with grieving widows. She said, "Your husband was quite the investor, very strategic, very, very patient. Patient." There was that word again. The numbers swam before my eyes. Apple stock purchased in 1985, $2,000 initial investment, now worth $2.8 million. Amazon stock from 1997, $5,000 turned into $1.6 million. Microsoft, Google, a diversified portfolio that read like a fortune teller's perfect predictions. Life insurance payout I never knew existed, $2 million. Various bonds and mutual funds, $800,000. Total value, $7.2 million. $7.2 million. I don't understand, I whispered. We lived so carefully, clipped coupons, drove cars until they died. I worked extra shifts to pay for Madison's dance lessons. Patricia slid another envelope across the desk. He left this for you as well. Inside was a letter in Robert's handwriting. My vision blurred with tears as I read. My dearest Ellie, if you're reading this, then I'm gone, and you found my secret. Please forgive me for keeping it from you. It was never about trust. You are the most trustworthy person I've ever known. It was about protection. I watched my brother lose everything in his divorce because his wealth was visible. I watched my father's family tear each other apart over inheritance. Money doesn't just reveal character, Ellie. It warps it. It turns love into transaction, family into shareholders. You and I built a beautiful life on nurses' wages and engineer salary. Madison grew up knowing the value of work, of sacrifice, of earning rather than expecting.
That was my gift to her, and to you. The normality, the struggle that builds character. But now I'm gone, and you need security more than life lessons. This money is yours, my love. Only yours. I've structured it carefully. Trusts within trusts. Legal protections that would take an army of lawyers to untangle. Use it wisely. Share it if you choose. But please, wait. Watch. Let people show you who they are when they don't know what you have. Money is like a chemical reagent in a lab. It reveals the true composition of relationships. You gave me 38 years of unconditional love. You held my hand through chemo when I couldn't hold down water. You smiled at my terrible jokes until the very end. This is my last gift to you, the freedom to choose your life without financial fear. All my love, Robert. P.S. Remember our trip to Vegas for our 25th anniversary? You said slots were for suckers and made me invest that gambling money instead. You were right. The Apple stock says, thank you. I sat in that small room and sobbed. Not pretty tears, but the ugly crying of someone whose entire world had shifted on its axis. Patricia quietly handed me tissues and gave me privacy to fall apart.
$7 million. While I'd been lying awake, calculating whether I could afford peonies from Ecuador, I'd been sitting on a fortune that could buy the entire flower shop. The irony was so sharp it cut. That evening, Madison called again. I was sitting at my kitchen table, the financial documents spread before me like tarot cards, revealing my future. Mom, great news. Diana found a way to save money on the peonies. Her friend owns a flower shop and can do them for only $2,500. Isn't that wonderful? Only $2,500. I thought of Robert, how he'd grown up poor in rural Tennessee, how he'd saved coins in a jar to buy his first calculator for engineering school. What would he think of his daughter now casually discussing thousands of dollars for flowers that would wilt in hours? That's good, honey. You sound weird. Are you okay? Was I okay? I was a millionaire 7 times over, listening to my daughter cheerfully plan to drain my supposed poverty while seating me with the kitchen staff. The laugh that bubbled up tasted like hysteria. Just tired. Oh, Mom. That sigh again. That managing the elderly parent sigh. You're doing too much. You know, Tyler and I were talking. After the wedding, we should really discuss your living situation. That house is too big for you, and Tyler knows about these wonderful senior communities. Madison, I cut her off, my voice sharper than intended. I'm 68, not 98. I'm fine. Of course you are, she soothed, in the tone you'd use with a child insisting they're not tired. We just worry about you. Anyway, I have to run. Tyler's taking me to dinner with his partner from the firm. Kiss, kiss. Kiss, kiss? When did my daughter started saying kiss, kiss instead of I love you? I hung up and stared at the letter from Robert. Let people show you who they are when they don't know what you have. 3 weeks. I had 3 weeks until the wedding. 3 weeks to watch, to wait, to let the truth reveal itself like film developing in a darkroom. 3 weeks to decide whether the daughter I'd raised deserved to know about the fortune her father had left. I folded the documents carefully, placed them back in the envelope. Tomorrow I would move the money to new accounts, ones Madison couldn't possibly know about. I would play the role of the struggling widow, the mother who scrimped to afford wedding flowers, and I would watch. Because sometimes the most expensive education is learning who really loves you when they think you have nothing left to give. The pink dress hung in my closet, waiting for me. I ran my fingers over the silk and made a decision. I would wear it to that wedding. I would sit at table 19 with my head held high. I would smile and play the part of the poor relation one last time. But this time, I wouldn't be the only one being tested. This time, I'd be the one holding the cards.
As I watched my daughter laugh with her new in-laws at the head table, I realized I wasn't just sitting at table 19. I'd been seated there long before this wedding. The Grand Bohemian Hotel gleamed like a jewel box in the June sunshine, all marble and crystal, and the kind of aggressive elegance that whispered, you didn't belong unless your bank account had at least 7 figures. Little did they know, mine now did, but that was a secret I clutched like a weapon I wasn't ready to use. I arrived in my 2010 Honda Civic, pulling into the valet line behind a parade of Mercedes, BMWs, and Teslas. The valet's eyes skimmed over my car with barely concealed disdain before he handed me a ticket with the enthusiasm of someone handling dirty laundry. "The Thompson-Bennett wedding?" I said. "Through the main lobby, grand ballroom," he replied, already looking past me to the Bentley pulling up behind. I wanted to tell him I could buy 10 of those Bentleys now, cash, but I didn't. I smiled and walked through doors that might as well have been portals to another universe, one where I'd never quite learned the language. The lobby assault began immediately. Women in designer dresses air-kissed each other, diamonds throwing light like tiny daggers. Men in Italian suits discussed golf handicaps and stock portfolios. And there, in the center of it all, was Madison. My daughter, my baby girl who used to make mud pies in our backyard, stood like a queen holding court. The $12,000 dress, yes, she'd told me the price repeatedly, transformed her into something ethereal and untouchable. Her hair was swept up in an intricate design that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. The makeup artist had painted her face into porcelain perfection. She was beautiful. She was radiant. She was a stranger. "Mom!" She spotted me and glided over, her smile bright and camera-ready. "You made it!" As if there had been any question. As if I might have had somewhere more important to be than my only child's wedding. "Of course, sweetheart. You look..." My voice caught. "You look beautiful." "Thanks." She did a little spin, then frowned. "Oh, you wore the pink." Not, "You look lovely, Mom." Not, "I'm so glad you're here." Just disappointment, wrapped in tulle and Belgian lace. "I did." Diana materialized beside us, like an elegant shark sensing blood in the water. "Eleanor, how bold of you." Her eyes swept over my dress with the kind of disapproval that could curdle milk. "Madison, darling, the photographer needs you. The light is perfect right now." And just like that, my daughter was swept away, leaving me standing alone in a lobby full of people who looked through me like I was part of the furniture.
I made my way to the grand ballroom, where a harried wedding coordinator with a headset and clipboard directed me to my table. 19. She didn't need to say it was by the kitchen. The swinging doors and clatter of dishes made that clear enough. My table mates were already seated. Tyler's great-aunt Mildred, who appeared to be asleep, a couple who introduced themselves as neighbors of the Bennett's housekeeper, 2 of Tyler's father's employees who looked as comfortable as I felt, and 3 empty chairs that would remain that way all evening. The overflow table, the obligation table, the "we had to invite them but hope they don't stay long" table. From my exile by the kitchen, I had a perfect view of the head table, raised on a platform like royalty surveying their subjects. Madison and Tyler sat in the center, flanked by their wedding party, all Tyler's friends and cousins. Not one of Madison's childhood friends had made the cut. Too small town, she'd explained. Too not the right fit. I watched Diana Bennett hold court at table 1, her silver hair gleaming under the chandeliers as she graciously accepted compliments on the wedding she had planned, the vendor she'd chosen, the flowers she had selected. My flowers, the ones I'd paid for, had become her triumph. The ceremony itself had been beautiful in that cold, perfect way that felt like a magazine spread rather than a celebration of love. When the officiant asked who gave this woman to be married, the silence where my name should have been echoed through the ballroom. Madison had walked herself down the aisle. Modern, she'd said. Independent. But I knew the truth. She was ashamed of being given away by a widow in a Honda when Tyler had both parents and matching Jaguars. Now, as the reception unfolded, I nursed my single glass of house wine and watched my daughter navigate her new world.
She moved from table to table with practiced grace, spending 45 minutes with Tyler's business associates, 30 minutes with his extended family, 20 minutes with college friends. She never made it to table 19. "Excuse me, ma'am." A server appeared at my elbow. "Would you prefer the chicken or the fish?" I looked at the young woman, probably Madison's age, working this event for a minimum wage plus tips, and felt a kinship with her that I didn't feel with anyone else in the room. "The chicken, please, and thank you for asking." She smiled, a real smile, not the painted-on versions floating around the ballroom. "You're welcome. Can I get you anything else?" "Yes," I thought. "You can get me my daughter back, the one who used to think I hung the moon, the one who wrote in her kindergarten journal that she wanted to be just like Mommy when she grew up." "I'm fine," I said. "Thank you." The speeches began during dinner. Tyler's father spoke about legacy and family dynasties. Tyler's mother shared an amusing anecdote about her son's first golf lesson at the country club. The best man, Tyler's fraternity brother, told stories that were probably hilarious if you had attended prep school and understood the references.
Then Tyler's father returned to the microphone. "I'd like to thank everyone who made this magical day possible. My wife Diana, whose impeccable taste and endless connections created this fairy tale. Tyler's grandparents who flew in from Martha's Vineyard. And of course, all of you, our dearest friends and family, for celebrating with us as we welcome Madison into the Bennett family. She's exactly the kind of daughter-in-law we'd hoped for. Beautiful, educated, and ready to take her place in our family's continued success." He raised his champagne. "To Madison and Tyler." The room erupted in applause. I sat frozen, my untouched chicken congealing on the plate. Not one mention of me. Not one acknowledgement that Madison had a mother, a family, a history before the Bennetts decided she was acceptable. I had been erased as thoroughly as if I'd never existed. But the final blow was yet to come. Madison stood, radiant in the spotlight, and took the microphone. My heart lifted despite everything. Surely my daughter would remember who had held her hand through scraped knees and broken hearts, who had worked double shifts to pay for ballet lessons and debate camp, who had sat up all night helping with science fair projects and college essays. "Thank you all so much for being here," she began, her voice clear and confident. "This day has been a dream come true, and I need to thank the people who made it possible." I straightened in my chair. "First, my amazing new parents, Richard and Diana. You've welcomed me with open arms and shown me what true sophistication and success look like. Thank you for this incredible wedding and for raising the man of my dreams." She beamed at Tyler. "To my husband, God, I love saying that. Thank you for choosing me, for elevating me, for showing me a world I never knew existed. You've made me better in every way." She raised her glass. "And to everyone here, thank you for witnessing our love and supporting our journey. Here's to family, the one we choose and the one we create." The room exploded in applause again. Madison sat down, glowing with happiness, never once looking toward table 19. The one we choose. Not the one we're born with. Not the mother who had chosen her every single day for 35 years. The one we choose. I stood up quietly, placing my napkin beside my untouched plate. The great aunt was definitely asleep now, and the others at my table were deep in their own conversations. No one noticed as I picked up my purse and walked toward the exit. I passed through the kitchen doors instead of the main ballroom exit. It was closer, and honestly, it felt appropriate. The kitchen staff looked up in surprise as a wedding guest in a pink dress navigated between their prep stations. "Sorry," I murmured, "just passing through." "No problem, ma'am," said one of them. "You okay?" I stopped. A young man in a chef's coat was looking at me with genuine concern. More genuine than anything I'd experienced all day. "I'm fine," I said. "Just needed some air." He nodded. "I get it. These fancy weddings, they can be a lot. There's an exit through there that leads to the parking garage. Quieter than going back through the party. Thank you." I emerged into the parking garage, the concrete and fluorescent lights a harsh relief after the ballroom's aggressive elegance. My Honda sat waiting, humble and honest, exactly what it appeared to be.
unlike everything else in my life now. I sat in my car for a long moment, key in the ignition but not turning it. Through the garage's entrance, I could see the hotel's windows glowing with light. Somewhere in there, my daughter was dancing with her new husband, surrounded by her chosen family, probably not yet aware that her biological mother had vanished like smoke. Or maybe she was aware and relieved. One less thing to manage, one less reminder of where she'd come from. I finally started the car and drove home through streets that blurred with tears I refused to let fall. Not yet. Not until I was safe behind my own doors in my own home, where no one could judge the wrong color of my grief. The house was dark and quiet when I arrived. I didn't turn on the lights, just walked to my bedroom, unzipped the pink dress, and let it fall to the floor like shed skin. I stood there in my slip, looking at myself in the mirror, 68 years old, silver-haired, soft around the edges, invisible. But underneath, hidden where no one could see, I was worth $7 million. The irony was so sharp it could draw blood. I attended my daughter's wedding as a pauper, been treated like a charity case, been seated with the leftovers and forgotten, all while I could have bought that hotel entirely. I picked up my phone. One missed call from Madison. The voicemail was brief. "Mom, where did you go? We're about to cut the cake." "Never mind, Diana's cousin will stand in for the photos. Hope you're okay, probably just tired. I know it's past your bedtime. Love you." Past my bedtime, like I was a child who needed a nap. I deleted the message and went to my closet, to the back where I'd hidden the bank documents. $7.2 million. Numbers that represented Robert's faith in the future, his quiet brilliance, his last gift to me. Tomorrow, I decided. Tomorrow I would begin making plans. Not for revenge, I wasn't that small, but for revelation, because Madison had made her choice clear tonight. She had chosen the family that elevated her, that opened doors, that offered sophistication and success. Now it was time for her to live with that choice, and time for me to discover who Eleanor Thompson could be when she stopped trying to be invisible.
2 weeks after the honeymoon in Santorini, Madison invited me for lunch. I should have known. She'd never eaten at Applebee's willingly in her life. "Mom, let's have lunch tomorrow. My treat." Her voice on the phone had been syrup sweet, the kind of tone that used to mean she'd failed a test or dented the car. Now, apparently, it meant something far more calculated. I'd spent the 2 weeks since the wedding in a strange state of suspension. The hurt from being invisible at my own daughter's wedding had crystallized into something harder, sharper. I'd met with Patricia at Wells Fargo twice more, moving money into new accounts, setting up safeguards. Robert's letter stayed on my nightstand, his warning echoing, "Let people show you who they are." Madison had shown me. Now, sitting across from her at Applebee's, I was about to find out why I'd suddenly become visible again. "You look good, Mom," she said, studying me over her menu. "Rested." "Thank you." I noticed her designer handbag on the seat beside her, the Cartier watch Tyler had given her as a wedding gift. Here, among the families and seniors stretching their budgets, she looked like visiting royalty. "How was Santorini?" "Oh, incredible! The sunsets, the hotels, everything was perfect. Tyler's parents have a friend with a yacht, so we did some island hopping." She pulled out her phone, scrolling through photos of azure waters and whitewashed buildings. "That's wonderful, honey." A pause. She put the phone away, and I saw her shift, a subtle straightening of her spine, a slight narrowing of her eyes, the transformation from daughter to dealmaker. "Mom, there's something Tyler and I wanted to discuss with you." There it was. I took a sip of water, waited. "You know we worry about you, living alone in that big house, managing everything by yourself." "I've been managing fine for 4 years since your father died." "Of course you have. Too quick, too bright.
But we're thinking about the future. Tyler's been doing some research on senior living communities. Really nice ones, Mom. Not nursing homes. They're like resorts. Activities, friends your age, medical staff on site. I watched my daughter sell me on my own obsolescence and felt something inside me turn to stone. And the house? Well, that's the thing. She leaned forward, conspiratorial. The market is amazing right now. Tyler's partner's wife is a realtor. She could get you top dollar. You could sell, move somewhere smaller, more manageable, and have money left over for whatever you need. Whatever I need, I repeated flatly.
The waitress appeared. Madison ordered a salad, no dressing. I ordered the riblets, extra sauce, just to watch her flinch. "Mom," she continued after the waitress left, "we just want what's best for you. And honestly, maintaining that house must be such a burden. The taxes alone." "I manage." "But you shouldn't have to just manage." She reached into her purse, that $3,000 purse, and pulled out a folder. Tyler put together some information. She slid it across the table. Glossy brochures for active senior living and Sunset Gardens, where life begins at 65. Happy, silver-haired people laughing over chess, doing water aerobics, looking grateful to be warehoused efficiently. And underneath the brochures, a thicker document, legal-sized, dense with text. "What's this?" "Just some paperwork, nothing major. Tyler's partner drew it up. He didn't even charge us. Isn't that sweet? It's a financial power of attorney. Standard stuff." Standard stuff. I opened the document, scanning the legalese. Durable power of attorney, immediate effect, complete financial control, asset management, real estate transactions. "This gives you complete control over my finances." "Not control, Mom. Just oversight. Help. So you don't have to worry about bills or taxes or any of that boring stuff. Tyler's amazing with finances. You should see our portfolio." Our portfolio. 2 weeks of marriage and she already spoke in plural possessives. I kept reading. The document was comprehensive, aggressive, the kind of thing you'd use for someone with advanced dementia, not a healthy 68-year-old who'd managed a cardiac unit for 30 years. "And if I sign this, you could sell my house. Only if it's best for you. Only to help you transition to somewhere more appropriate." Appropriate. There was that word again. The food arrived. Madison picked at her dry salad while I ate riblets with my fingers, sauce dripping, not breaking eye contact. Let her be embarrassed. Let her see the mother she was trying to erase. "Tyler's worried about you," she said, trying a different approach. "He says isolation is the biggest risk for seniors. In a community, you'd have built-in friends, activities." "I have friends." "Mom, the ladies from your book club don't count. I mean real social connections. People who understand the phase of life you're in." "The phase of life I'm in. Like aging was a contagious disease she might catch if she got too close. And Tyler thinks a lot. What do you think, Madison?" She blinked as if the question hadn't occurred to her. I want you to be safe. Happy, not struggling." "Do I seem like I'm struggling?" "Well," she gestured vaguely at my riblets, my clothes, the restaurant itself. "You're eating at Applebee's, Mom. Alone, probably, before I called. That's not a life."
I set down my food, wiped my hands carefully on the napkin. You're right. This isn't the life I imagined either. I imagined having lunch with my daughter at places like this because we enjoyed each other's company, not because she was embarrassed to be seen with me anywhere nicer. I imagined being part of my daughter's life, not seated at the reject table at her wedding. I imagined... My voice caught, and I hated myself for it. I imagined being enough. Mom, but you're right. This isn't a life. It's what's left when your only child decides you're an embarrassment to be managed rather than a mother to be loved. Madison's face flushed.
That's not fair. I love you. That's why I'm trying to help. No! I pushed the documents back across the table. You're trying to tidy me away, package me up neat and clean so I don't clash with your new life. Well, I won't sign this. Not today, not ever. Mom, please, just think about it. Tyler says, I don't care what Tyler says. The words came out louder than intended. The family at the next table looked over. I lowered my voice. I am your mother. Not Tyler's project, not Diana's embarrassment, your mother. And if that's not enough anymore, then we have nothing left to discuss. I stood, pulled $40 from my wallet and laid it on the table. For lunch. My treat, actually. Mom, wait. But I was already walking away. Past the hostess stand, past the family celebrating a child's birthday, past all the normal people living their normal lives without needing to be managed or improved or made appropriate. In the parking lot, I sat in my Honda and let the tears come. Not pretty tears, the ugly, choking sobs of a woman who just watched her daughter try to purchase her obsolescence with a smile and a salad. My phone buzzed. A text from Madison. That didn't go how I planned. Tyler says you're probably just overwhelmed. We'll give you time to think about it. Love you. Tyler says. Always Tyler says. I drove home to my too big house with its too many stairs and its too many memories. In the kitchen, I poured a glass of wine, good wine, from a bottle Robert had been saving, and made a decision. Eleanor wanted me to disappear into some senior community, to hand over control of my life to her and Tyler, to go quietly into that good night of irrelevance. She had no idea that the woman she was trying to warehouse was worth $7 million. She had no idea that her father had protected me from exactly this moment. She had no idea that her mother, the embarrassment in the pink dress, was about to become ungovernable. I raised my glass to Robert's photo on the mantel. You were right, my love. Money does reveal character, and our daughter just showed me hers. Tomorrow I would call Dorothy Chen. Tonight I would drink good wine in my too big house and plan my resurrection, because Eleanor Thompson wasn't done yet. Not by a long shot.
Dorothy Chen had been my patient once. Now, 30 years later, she was about to return the favor by saving my life, financially speaking. I'd saved Dorothy's life during a cardiac event in 1994. She'd been 35, a rising star in estate law, when a heart attack tried to claim her in the hospital parking lot. I'd been heading home after a 12-hour shift when I found her collapsed by her BMW, briefcase scattered, cell phone just out of reach. Now she sat across from me in her corner office, all glass and steel and success, reviewing the documents I'd brought. The power of attorney Madison had tried to ambush me with lay between us like evidence of a crime. This is aggressive, Dorothy said, her expression darkening with each page. Extremely aggressive. This isn't designed to help an aging parent. It's designed to strip them of autonomy entirely. Tyler's partner drew it up. Tyler Bennett of Bennett & Associates? Her eyebrows rose. Eleanor, I need to tell you something. Tyler Bennett has a history. My blood chilled. What kind of history? Dorothy turned to her computer, fingers flying over the keyboard. 3 years ago, he was named in a lawsuit. Elderly client, recently widowed, he convinced her to sign over financial power of attorney, then liquidated half her assets for investments that benefited his firm. She lost $500,000 before her son discovered what was happening. The room spun slightly. What happened? Settled out of court, sealed records. But we talk in the legal community. She looked over me over her glasses. Your son-in-law is a predator, Eleanor, and it seems he's set his sights on you. I thought of Madison, my bright, ambitious daughter. Does Madison know? That's a question only you can answer, Dorothy's voice was gentle. But in my experience, spouses usually know more than they admit.
We spent the next 3 hours building my fortress. Dorothy was brilliant, thorough, and absolutely ruthless when it came to protecting her clients. First, we're creating an irrevocable trust, she explained. Your $7 million goes in, but with very specific conditions. You maintain full control during your lifetime, but no one, and I mean no one, can access it without meeting extremely strict criteria. What about my grandchildren, Emma and Liam? Educational trusts, she said, making notes, separate from the main trust. Money available only for tuition, paid directly to institutions. No cash withdrawals. They can't access it, and neither can their parents. Good. I thought of Madison's $3,000 purse. And the rest? That's up to you. But I'd suggest being creative. A small smile played at her lips. Sometimes the best revenge is a life well lived and a will that reflects your values, not theirs. By the time we finished, I'd restructured everything. 70% to Alzheimer's research, Robert's mother had suffered from it, 20% to a cardiac care scholarship at the nursing school, 10% to Emma and Liam, accessible only at age 30. Nothing for Madison? She made her choice, I said quietly. She chose the Bennett's money over her mother's love. Let her live with that choice. Dorothy prepared everything with elegant efficiency. As I signed document after document, I felt something shifting inside me, not hardening, but clarifying, like sediment settling in water until you can finally see through to the bottom. There's one more thing, Dorothy said as we finished. Given Tyler's history, I'd recommend documenting everything, every interaction, every pressure tactic, just in case. In case what? In case they escalate when they realize you won't be manipulated. She handed me a business card, her personal cell. Call anytime, Eleanor, day or night. I left her office feeling something I hadn't felt since the wedding. Powerful, protected, prepared. That evening, I stood in my kitchen, my perfectly good kitchen, in my perfectly good house, and made dinner. Nothing fancy, just soup and bread, eaten in peaceful silence. Madison didn't know it yet, but her attempt to cage me had backfired spectacularly. The tiger was out, and she had teeth they'd never imagined.
Madison's face went through 3 shades of pale when I slid the trust documents across her granite countertop. But it was Tyler's expression that told me everything. They'd invited me for Sunday dinner to clear the air, Madison had said. I'd arrived with my own ammunition, copies of the trust Dorothy had created, and the knowledge that my daughter was about to learn exactly who she'd tried to manipulate. "What is this?" Madison's voice was barely a whisper. "My financial arrangements," I said calmly. "Since you were so concerned about my future, I thought you should know it's all taken care of." Tyler snatched the papers, his eyes scanning rapidly. I watched his face change as he absorbed the numbers. The $7 million he'd never suspected, now locked away tighter than Fort Knox. You have $7 million? Madison's voice cracked. "And you never told me?" "Your father's investments," I said simply. "He was quite clever." "You lied to me," she stood abruptly, chair scraping against Italian marble. "You let me struggle, let me worry about wedding costs, about—" "I paid for your wedding flowers," I reminded her. $3,000 for peonies, remember? While you sat me at table 19. "That's not— You have $7 million. Her face was red now, ugly with rage. "I'm your only daughter. How could you?" Tyler finally found his voice, and when he spoke, the mask dropped completely. "Do you have any idea what we could have done with that money? The investments, the opportunities?" "Your opportunities?" I turned to him. "Like your elderly client 3 years ago? The widow who lost $500,000 to your investments?" The silence was deafening. Madison turned to her husband, and in that moment, I saw she knew. Maybe not the details, but she knew who she'd married. "Get out," Tyler said quietly, dangerously. "Get out of our house." "Tyler," Madison started. "Your mother," he spit the word like profanity, "is clearly suffering from paranoid delusions. Hidden millions, conspiracy theories. She needs help, Madison. Professional help." I stood slowly, gathering my purse. You may need many things, Tyler, but your help isn't one of them. Madison followed me to the door, tears streaming, but they weren't tears of regret. They were tears of fury. I'm your only daughter, she repeated, your only family. How could you do this to me? I turned in the doorway, memorizing her face. Not the stranger she'd become, but the ghost of the daughter I'd once known. The same way you could seat me at table 19, I said quietly. The same way you could try to lock me away in a home and steal my autonomy. The same way you could erase me from your life until you needed something. If you walk out that door, she started, you'll what? Cut me off? Deny me access to my grandchildren? I smiled sadly. Madison, honey, you already did that. I'm just returning the favor. I left them there in their granite marble palace with their fury and their thwarted greed. As I drove away, I realized something. The money hadn't revealed Madison's character. It had revealed mine. In Eleanor Thompson, she was done being invisible.
Freedom at 68 doesn't look like retirement brochures. It looks like Tuesday morning salsa lessons and not apologizing for the laughter. The downtown Asheville condo I bought was everything my old house wasn't. Modern, manageable, and mine. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the mountains. A kitchen designed for someone who cooked for pleasure, not duty. And a master bathroom where I could soak in a clawfoot tub without worrying about leaky pipes or phantom repair bills. Madison had been wrong about one thing. I wasn't isolated. I was selective. There's a difference. The Silver Sisters found me. Or maybe I found them. We met at the salsa class I'd impulsively signed up for, tired of my body being treated like something to manage rather than celebrate. Gloria, 72, a retired federal judge who'd left her cheating husband with nothing but legal brilliance. Patricia, 69, who'd built a restaurant empire while raising 4 kids alone. Dorothy Chen, who'd become not just my lawyer, but my friend. And Linda, 70, whose daughter had similarly tried to warehouse her until Linda fought back with a forensic accountant and sheer spite. We were the invisible women made visible by our own choices. You know what I love about being our age? Gloria said one evening, as we sat on my balcony drinking wine that cost more than my old monthly grocery budget. We're beyond giving a damn about being appropriate. Amen, Patricia laughed. I wore a leather jacket to my grandson's school play last week. You should have seen the other grandmothers' faces. This was wealth, I realized. Not just the money, though that helped, but the freedom to choose your own story. I traveled to Italy first class, something Robert and I had always dreamed of but never done, too busy saving for Madison's future. I sent postcards to Emma and Liam, even though I knew Tyler probably intercepted them. Love Grandma Ellie at the bottom of each one. A reminder that I existed whether their parents acknowledged it or not. I started the Robert Thompson Cardiac Care Scholarship at the nursing school. Young women who worked double shifts and dreamed big dreams just like I had once. Their gratitude was genuine in a way Madison's had never been. Mrs. Thompson, one recipient said, tears in her eyes, "This changes everything for me." Yes, I thought. Money does that, but only if you use it right. The call came on a Thursday, exactly a year after the wedding. "Mom?" Madison's voice was smaller than I'd ever heard it. Can I come see you?" She appeared at my door, looking like she'd aged 5 years. Designer clothes replaced by simple jeans and a sweater. The Cartier watch gone. Her face bare of the perfect makeup that had masked her for so long. "Tyler left," she said without preamble. Or rather, I left Tyler. I let her in, made tea in my beautiful new kitchen, while she sat at the counter looking lost. "He was having an affair," she continued, "with a client, a widow with a trust fund." She laughed bitterly. "I guess I aged out of being useful."
I said nothing, just pushed the honey toward her. The prenup he insisted on protects him completely. I get nothing. The house, the cars, even most of my jewelry, all technically his or his firm's. She stirred her tea absently. I'm 36 years old with 2 kids and nothing to show for selling my soul. You have your children? I reminded her. Yes. Her voice cracked. Emma asked me the other day why Grandma Ellie doesn't visit anymore. I didn't know what to tell her. The truth, I suggested, that you chose money over family and choices have consequences. She flinched but didn't deny it. We sat in silence for a long moment. I'm sorry, she finally whispered. I'm so sorry. I became someone I don't even recognize. I treated you like an embarrassment to be managed. Yes, tears flowed freely now. I let them convince me that love was about appearances and bank accounts. I forgot that you worked 60-hour weeks to pay for my dance lessons, that you hand-sewed my Halloween costumes, that you were always there, even when I didn't deserve it. I studied my daughter, really looked at her for the first time in years. Without the designer armor and Bennett shine, she looked young, vulnerable, like the girl who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms. She continued, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't expect anything. I just wanted you to know that I see it now, all of it. What I threw away for a lie. What will you do? I don't know. Start over, I guess. Get a job. Tyler's lawyer says I might get minimal child support, but I'll figure it out. You taught me how to be strong once. Maybe I can remember.
I made a decision then. Not from weakness or manipulation, but from the kind of love that sets boundaries while still leaving room for growth. I'll help with the children's expenses, I said carefully. School, medical, necessities, paid directly to providers, not through you. Mom, I'm not asking. I know. That's why I'm offering. I met her eyes. But Madison, understand this. I will never again be anyone's afterthought. Not yours, not anyone's. I've built a life I love with people who value me. There's room for you in it, but only as equals, only with respect. She nodded, tears still falling. I understand. Good. Then we start from here, slowly, honestly, no more games. That was 6 months ago. Madison got a job at a design firm. Turns out she was actually talented when she wasn't playing society wife. She rented a small apartment near good schools. Some evenings, she and the children come for dinner. We cook together, laugh together, slowly rebuilding what greed had destroyed. Emma loves my salsa music. Liam thinks my condo's view is the coolest ever. They call me Grandma Ellie now, not the formal grandmother Tyler had insisted on. Madison still has hard days, moments when the life she lost seems glitter brighter than the life she's building. But she's learning what I learned, that real worth isn't measured in dollars or dinner parties, but in the quiet moments when you realize you like who you've become. Last week, she brought me a gift, a small framed photo from when she was 7, missing her front teeth, hugging me like I was her whole world. I found this while packing, she said. I thought, maybe you'd want it? Thank you, I said, meaning it. I know exactly where it belongs. It sits on my mantle now, next to Robert's photo. A reminder that love isn't always linear, that sometimes we have to lose each other to find our way back. Love means letting your children fail, even when you have 7 million reasons to save them. Because sometimes the most valuable inheritance isn't money, it's the chance to grow a backbone. I still have the pink dress, but now I wear it to salsa class, where it clashes beautifully with everything, especially expectations. And that table 19 by the kitchen? These days, I choose my own seat, and it's always at the head of my own table, surrounded by people who see me for exactly who I am. Eleanor Thompson, mother, grandmother, survivor, dancer, millionaire, invisible no more. If this story touched something in you, if you've ever had to choose between being loved and being respected, know that you're not alone. Sometimes the hardest battles are with the people we love most. But on the other side of that pain, freedom. And it's worth every difficult step.